discussing with him, Tech Mahindra. History continues.
Hi, I'm Sunil Bali. I'm a management consultant on a global business environment. I'm based in Dubai and in Vancouver. And I'm here at the Congress and I'm looking at more presentation on the stage. So my specialty is in corporate development, risk compliance, and SOX compliance, and as well as business process management.
Oh, okay.
Mr. G.H. Gangu, we are from Urban Energy. It's good to put the chair. You can put the chair for this.
Yes.
But this can chair, because those two people will come, three people will come.
And this colleague, I'm R.D. Patel. I'm coming from Hello to Board, Department of Attachment Engineering. I'm chief engineer and looking after the mechanical related jobs.
एक chair ला के
By qualification, I am a chartered accountant in company.
यहाँ पर ना
I am working with Advanced Enzyme Technologies Limited. Two of my colleagues, they are coming, they are on the way. And looking after finance and ensuring compliances of corporate laws.
Oh, okay. Nice meeting.
I'm Mr. Masullah,
Mm-hmm.
working as an independent director and delivery manager for product business area for software as a service. I have done post-graduation in global strategy management, then CFA, then certification in IFRS, then post-graduation in banking management, then certification in SAP HR, then certification in SAP controlling, finance controlling, then done good studies.
Okay, good.
Yeah.
Good. Nice to know the wide variety of talent that's available in the class. To begin with, the topic talks about environmental governance and corporate social responsibility. Environmental governance, if you really look at it, it talks about a whole lot of proactive measures which have been emerging in different sectors. Okay? Many of you some of you who are sitting there who are into the technical management of environmental issues at different sectoral levels would appreciate that to bring about proper environmental governance, you need to have operational excellence, you need to have quality excellence, and you also need to have top management commitment to implement all these measures over a period of time. When I started off in 1980s, possibly when I'm addressing senior members, I would have had some apprehensions that we talk a lot about environmental governance in a seminar room, but nothing happens in the companies. Today, when you look around, at least in the past 20 years, every company, we are taking it as a case study or where you have worked, you have got familiarity. All of us at least can say that a lot of importance is given to operational issues related to environmental governance. If you really look at the reasons, basically two things come to your mind. One is the watchdog role, which the government has become very, very stringent, because of which you have no choice but to adhere to their norms and regulations. That's one part of the story. Second is somewhere down the line, there's been a deep realization that we need to take care of Mother Earth in whatever way in which you have to do that. Now, another gentleman sitting there, he mentioned that I'm also looking into risk analysis and risk assessment, and here is a person who is into all kinds of certification. Now, what does it reflect? It reflects about that what is bare minimum in terms of adhering to standards, at least the basic requirements in terms of environmental governance has come into, it's been infused into the way in which we carry out business. Okay? With the limited time I have, that's about 1.5 hours, and it's a very, very broad topic, so I'm basically trying to focus my attention only to the corporate issues and environmental governance. Okay? Environmental governance, strictly speaking, has to be taken at 3 different levels. One is in terms of the policy enactments which have been coming up over a period of time. If you are looking at across different countries, you have policy governance happening in the industrialized countries in terms of market-driven mechanisms. Okay, and in a country like India, by and large, we are using command and control approach for environmental governance. Okay, whereas when you are looking at policy enactment and policy implementation, sometimes we leave much to be desired in a developing country. Okay, but I will be very careful that I will not touch upon it now, because I think Jairam Ramesh is making things really tough for many of the companies. Okay, what are the motives? Why is he sticking on to it? All of us know it as much as I do, that what is happening in Vedanta Group, or what Medha Patkar has done over a period of time, or cut across and look at all kinds of environmental activists. What has happened is the trigger event. Okay, it doesn't matter to us whether Vedanta is going to adhere to all the norms and regulations, but the trigger that environmental governance is important is bringing about a change management here. I am a management teacher. I look at environmental governance or any kind of a trigger as something what is instrumental in bringing about a change. Okay, all of us know how difficult it is in organizations and companies to bring about change when you have got rigid structure, divisional structures, or open this. Very difficult to bring about change. Ultimately, in environmental governance, you're basically talking about change management. Okay, you're basically talking about change management. Can anybody give me an example of a practice under environmental governance? Any particular practice? Almost all the companies, listed companies, have gone into preparation of sustainability report. Okay, you just, with a click of a button, you come across about 20 plus sustainability reports. Is that environmental governance? Can I have some kind of idea from
Yeah,
you?
I can share what's happening in Middle East. And I do also take care of quality management angle. And my organization, where I'm nominated director from Government of Dubai, we are called Dubai Quality Group. And one of the area which we have 3,200 members. So we teach and have hand-holding for them to do this environmental certification. Now, along with that, the government of UAE, the federal government, has already made it mandatory that any contract or tender for oil and gas industry will be rejected on the spot. Okay, if you do not have the environmental,
Clearance.
and along with that, sustainability is an issue and all those things. So what they're doing is that they're not saying that, okay, we just want you to be, follow the rule. No, they are going ahead. The government of Abu Dhabi has set up a project called Masdar. Masdar is an Arabic word for environment, and Masdar is going to be a city which will run only on solar power, 100%. So all the Renewable Energy Commission has decided to set up the office in this office. So the point is that they are taking leads in not only telling the corporates, okay, we are giving you an opportunity, get yourself up to date for the environment, environment governance, and otherwise your business will be affected. Now what India model is difficult to follow. The rules are there, but nobody wants to follow, and there's no compliance.
No, as my colleague said like that, but he's not maybe like not gone through the paper. India has one ministry with environment, health and safety, and every with every company, different sector of company, different sector of industry, different norms are being allocated.
The norms,
Yeah,
yeah.
and they are being followed. people maybe misuse that is the different things, but Indian government has like strict environment health and safety. So in short it is known as in India EHS.
Right.
So each EHS has a different department, and so with every software, because of the government norms, with every software we have an EHS software also.
Yeah.
Environment health and safety software. With every big company like SAP, Oracle, whatever, so they have their own product of EHS, environment health and safety. So to look after these particular issues.
Yeah. No, he is in a different level, and what you are talking about comes in the operation level. Both are equally applicable. Let's just look at, I mean, I just asked for a 2 minutes kind of a, what do you feel about it? In the 2 minutes, when we were observing these two participants, couple of things emerged. He was able to recall the best practice which has come in. Best practice is not part of a mandatory requirement, but companies have started getting into best practices. It could be even rainwater harvesting. It could be in that water management board where you are there. It will be in terms of opportunities for looking into recycling, or you name it, n number of practices are there, especially in VRC and places like that. They have been far ahead of regulations from the beginning itself. That's a different kind of a area. Coming to the clearance, is clearance a governance mechanism, or clearance is something as a mandatory? Is something I leave it to you for thinking about it. Clearance comes, the word itself comes because of clearance is something required due to a command and control approach. At the policy level, there is a command and control, they need a clearance. Why do they need the clearance? There's a legacy behind it. Okay? Things, it's like this. This is a Konkan, let's say that this is the flow of a river. I am a conscious corporate citizen. I don't want the river water to be polluted. I take all the measures possible. Before the effluent reaches there, I clean it, and then the effluent reaches the river body. My neighbor is also an industrialist, but then he sees that red, green, yellow, pink, all kinds of water also gets into the same river body, and his, within quotation, his mindset is, kya farak padta hai? What difference will it make? Okay? Now, for the policy discussion, we call this behavior as free rider principle. Now, you cannot expect a controlling authority every day to monitor and see that how much of water is in red color, pink color, blue, or whatever. Okay? The free riders exist in Dubai, they exist in UK, they exist in US, they exist in India and across different countries. Okay? Whenever we have got a kind of a mindset, a nagging kind of an irritation, nothing is happening here. Okay? Because people are not careful. It is because of the number of free riders are much more than number of people who are in the best practice realm, which is absolutely understandable when you have got a larger country, larger set of industries to be regulated. Can a listed company, can a company which is in the 17 categories of companies which are regulated very, very stringent, can they afford to do that? My answer is absolutely no. There is no company in India, whether they have got certification, whether they have got all the quality control or not, can they afford to be a little lax about it? Can they manage the papers? As on date, it's no. It's simply not possible, because even if you have got, let us say that he mentioned that there is a Ministry of Environment and Forest, then he talked about the SHE department. SHE is Safety, Health and Environment. Whether you talk about a SHE department, whether you talk about MOUF or a public interest litigation, whatever it is, in the listed companies today, the environmental management department, which used to be in one odd corner in the industry where the records were not there, things have drastically changed. Please visit and have a look at it. And those departments, they're not only the record management, they show you the best practices which have come. If I talk about a cement industry, they tell you about, madam, we have incorporated surface miner as a technology. The other day I went to a sugar technology company, and they talk about what improvements they have brought about in terms of using bagasse as a fuel. about what are they doing as far as waste management is concerned. Sugarcane is vital for sugar industry. The last thing they'll do is to incinerate whatever is remaining. The incineration practice no longer exists in the sugar industry because they are able to use it into a cake and then they convert it into a fertilizer. This has come in as a part of the waste practice which is in the sugar industry. Then apart from that, they also have got cogeneration plants which have been installed in sugar mills, which is not mandatory, but they have done it so that power generation is there to help them in terms of reducing the cost itself. So 2 or 3 things we have to look at. Individually, when you are looking at environmental governance practices, you may have a slight problem. But companies which have looked into business viability, why does a company exist? Fundamental is the bottom line, which is business viability. In the business viability model, if they are able to incorporate environmental governance properly, it takes time, properly, it is something like a sustained practice of environmental governance. Wherever corruption or other practices have been there, the path has not been very smooth and it has taken time for people to come up with environmental governance practices. Okay? So, what are the kind of words which will come into your mind now? Somebody may have a word about sustainability practice. Somebody will have a thought process about what is this triple bottom line which happens, why this triple bottom line is important. Now, normally in a classroom what I do is, what do you need for a tripod to stand proper, stable? Tripod stand. What do you need?
Water
Relay.
based. Water based.
I'm not very good at drawing, but I'll try. This looks like a tripod. This is the economic bottom line. This is our social bottom line. The word social makes us think as though something social you are going to do welfare. Social bottom line is not a welfare or a philanthropic model. We'll come to it a little later. Then the environmental bottom line. The moment we talk about triple bottom line reports, or we are talking about sustainability, we are talking about the environmental governance, so long as all the 3 are managed and integrated together, and the fundamental issue is business viability, we have absolutely no issue. What is business viability for any businessman? My cost have to be what?
Minimum cost.
Minimum cost is not possible. Give me some other word. Optimum. Okay. What are the 4 pillars of business viability? You need to have quality. You need to have cost effectiveness. You need to have first mover advantage, otherwise somebody else will take your business. And you also need to be innovative in across processes, across practices, across different things that you do. That is what is business viability. Okay? 4 cornerstones. You can have 10, 20 parameters, it's okay. But then 4 cornerstones which are important are these 4 issues: quality, cost effectiveness, innovation, and first mover advantage. With that, we established business viability. Having said that, so long as the tripod is having all the 3 stable and is being integrated together, you have no issues coming up. Okay? But I'll put another diagram. Most of the companies have this economic bottom line here, the other 2 hanging around like this. This is also supposed to be a tripod. Can you see the imbalance which is created? Now, from this stage, when companies move on here, which is where the best practices come. From this stage, when companies are not able to comprehend, why do I need a social? I'll give him 10 lakhs, 10% of my total profit, I'm going to give to him as a philanthropy. Okay, so give me some kind of a chapa that I've got an award or whatever. That doesn't speak about an overall sustainable practice. Companies which have moved beyond compliance have realized that Michael Porter has written about this extensively. The competitive advantage of being sustainable in the long run is beneficial, because most of the companies have realized that the cleaning up cost is much more than having a preventive mechanism here. One set of story. Second set of story is, if you have got technology which has not been upgraded, they are potentially pollution generating, move on to a cleaner technology mechanism, okay? So once you have the CDM in place, you are automatically upgrading your performance of environmental management from level 1 to level 2, okay? So that's a kind of a second stream of thought which is going on. Third thing is, environmental technology makes a lot of business sense. What are the kind of market you have? The market is universal across the globe. So environmental technology, should it be from Germany only? It's not necessary. It can be indigenous practices. It can be anything. So therefore, this particular issue is getting a lot of momentum. Okay? I come to your house and I tell you that you will have to govern your environmental practices. You may not listen. It's up to me. Why are you encroaching into my freedom? I'm a free rider and I'll decide what is best for me. Whereas, the moment WTO said that there are going to be, well, what is that? What did WTO say? I'm just looking at what are the drivers which made people change. Okay, I still don't believe on their own they have changed and then they have become better in terms of environmental governance. What made people change?
Rules, law.
Rules, law. What kind of laws? They came up with what is called as non-tariff barriers. Okay, hit on the Google and then look at how many non-tariff barriers are there for any simple small-time entrepreneur who want to enter into international trade market, and see the number of hits you get on non-tariff barriers. Plenty. Okay. Now, why does it bother me? It will bother me. I'm supposed to be the whole-time director. I'm supposed to be taking care of my consignments. I have not got, I can get the certification, but then I have to answer simple questions. The question is, supposing I am into export of shrimp, which is the net I used for getting that aquaculture, taking the shrimp out, which is the net I used? My immediate answer will be, basically it's a livelihood for farmers. So I just got it from the farmers, and these farmers are typically doing it as a livelihood. It is bread and butter for them. Is that adequate for my consignment to get through? No. What is required?
The next quality needs to be, it should not have any toxic things or something like that.
Yeah, it should not have toxic. Why should I bother about it? Because in that particular water, the salinity increase, or there are so many other issues. So I have been using this particular net. My father used it, my grandfather used a similar net. Why should I bother? Let's just look at this governance as an issue at the rock bottom level. What issues come up? Why should I bother? You have come out with the WTO GATT regulations. You never asked us what are the environmental indigenous practices in my country. Okay, why should I bother?
You need to, you want to export it. If you want to export
Yeah, I want to export. My quality is good. You take my shrimp and it's fantastic. It tastes good.
Then there are some, I think, let down rules and regulation like waste certification, board certification.
Yeah, who made the rules?
That has been made by the country where you want to export, and then that we have also adopted that.
Yeah, when it's a livelihood in my country and your country makes a rule, is it binding on me?
It's binding in the sense like it may affect the health over a period of time to people who are going to consume it.
Okay, so therefore,
Therefore,
please go on.
yeah, therefore you need to abide by the rules and regulations, or like the best practices also over a period of time.
I was only talking about environmental issues. This gentleman has dragged me into another discussion which is on quality of life. He says rules are made because whoever is going to take it there, because of the poison or something, quality of life is something all of us are responsible. It's a part of a governance issue. Now, the discussion on shrimp, apart from poison and other things, one small problem came up. When you use that particular net, the turtles which are there in the water get stuck in that net and they get killed. Okay? So environmentalists said the poor turtles are getting killed. So if you are using that particular net, we will not buy the shrimp from your country. This is geopolitics. This is environmental governance. Okay, in the limited time I took you one example. There are hundreds of examples like this. Okay? So what happened? He said that the ministry is not able to do so many things. What will the ministry do? Take this as an example. The ministry said, okay, how much time will it be required? How many farmers, any idea, who are into shrimp aquaculture in the country?
In Kerala, I think,
Kerala, Andhra, border areas, a lot of them are there. What is the total number? Let's put the number as 5,000. Now for 5,000 people, if farmers have to be given new nets, will the government come forward?
if Jairam Ramesh is doing so many things for demolishing the building.
He may do that. No, I'll just come to it. This is one practice. There are thousands of indigenous practice like this.
But we are able to give free TV, rice, so many things.
Why not this?
Why not this thing?
Yeah. Now look at it as you are a strategist in your company and you are basically looking at it as a change management process. Phase 1, the ministry first of all will say that livelihood is important to the farmers, okay, but in order to phase out, the farmer cannot overnight buy the nets. At the same time, if the government gives everything free of cost, it is like a banker is sitting here, he knows what happened to the agriculture loans which have been given in across the country, okay. So the government has learnt lot of lessons through that. So therefore, the government says, we will give subsidy. Subsidy is given to trigger the change management process. You change the net, all right, you put 20 rupees, I'll give you 10 rupees. Okay. So what happened? The change is brought in and I still don't buy the logic. Somebody else sitting in Canada telling me how to continue. I still don't get it. So I keep asking, then why this fellow is bothered about what happens in Andhra? After all, it's my livelihood. For 3 generations we have done that. Okay, so the change is going to be slow. The resistance is going to be there. But still, the turtles get killed, a whole lot of problems happen. This is the major kind of a challenge for any apex body, See, it's very easy for us to say that the government is not doing things. Government has done phenomenally well in the 20 to 25 years in terms of policy enactments. Implementation requires a different kind of a ball game. I'll just tell you what happens under that. Now, I just told you about shrimp aquaculture. In Vellore, the issue is something else. What happened in Vellore? You have got huge lot of leather tanneries which are in the unorganized sector. The leather tanneries, whenever the surface gets affected, the fertility of the soil is affected. When the fertility of the soil is affected, who gets affected? All the agricultural land in the vicinity get affected. Normally, including DuPont, including many other larger companies, the problem is if somebody says, I have scientific evidence, assume that he does a lot of certification and he says, I have scientific evidence. This is my scientific report I am submitting to you. In a boardroom, the scientific report comes in. After that, a CEO sits in here, I don't think I trust this report. I heard that this particular report was done by him, but his credentials are not up to the mark. So I think I would defer and ask for another report to come in. Does it happen? It happens all the time, right? When it happens, what is there? Ultimately, there is a delay in decision making. DuPont took 10 years to believe chlorofluorocarbons are creating that little carbon hole, ozone hole, and that through that in the stratosphere it took about 7.5 years to reach, and then somebody got a skin cancer and that skin cancer was due to this chlorofluorocarbon. See the complexity in environmental governance. We have MC Mehta, who brought about lot of landmark judgment in environmental governance, because whenever you look at environmental governance, you have to look at three things together. There is a Department of Justice on top. There is a ministry. Then there are the general public, who are the users. These three people have to see together to see that the entire decision making process is smooth. Okay? So we learnt a lot of lessons in this process of command and control governance mechanism. Okay? In the limited time, I can give you only a kind of a bird eye view. Okay? This is what is a fundamental problem, the command and control. Now, many of us very rarely we spect in public places or anything like that. It's because of your own value system, nothing else. Okay? In another country, take Singapore or any other, by any wage and that day you are not well or whatever, even if you spit, you will be charged, fined how much?
500 Singapore dollars.
Okay. Yes, it happens. Now, because of that, you don't spit. Can I implement that system in India? Especially in Maharashtra in the train system. Can I do that? Why not? It's a best practice. Why not? This is again a governance system. Okay, there are powerful advertisements which are available. You all remember in, I don't know which paper I saw it. There's an advertisement there, the sweeper sweeps till the end of the platform, one corner, and he reaches there, turns back, the platform just looks the same. It's not being cleaned at all. Okay, he does the entire thing and then he looks behind and sees. So this is one problem why CSR or environmental management, where when two fingers are pointing out at the government or the industry not doing it, the users are equally responsible. That is an issue.
I think, yesterday we were talking and one gentleman mentioned about Gutka's, thing and all. And, now in like Singapore, you cannot chew a pan in Dubai. If you are caught chewing a pan, the fine is $250 and a jail and a deportation. So you see, so citizens also want to follow the rules. Nobody wants to get deported to Mumbai. So the point is that that environmentally, all the big shopping malls, the walls are clean. I mean, there's no red stains there as you see here in our biggest mall. So I think you're right. The government and citizens both have to.
This thing. So it's a mixed basket now in governance. What is MOF doing? They have the clearance. In the clearance, if you earlier, what was it prior to Union Carbide disaster? It was, I stopped calling it a landmark event. Okay, it's not a landmark when so many people have died, and for 25 years we are not able to solve that Bhopal issue. It's not a landmark. So I'm just saying that we have learnt a lot in that. So what is basically coming up is, sorry. Just 1 minute.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Gurudev.
Jai Maharashtra. Jai Maharashtra.
Jai Gurudev. Jai Gurudev.
Yeah, I was just saying that post Union Carbide issue, command and control, remember it is going to be a slow governance mechanism. I mentioned you subsidy, and the farmer changes his way of doing it because he realizes that the turtle should not be caught and it has to be cost effective and quality conscious. All that together, how much time will you give? 3 years, 5 years? Earlier it used to take 10 years. Now it is 3 to 5 years. Okay, one example. Second example is we realized that CFC is definitely the culprit for ozone depletion. The timing was not very appropriate for India. When DuPont finally decided to phase out chlorofluorocarbon emission, that was the time Indian refrigeration industry was just coming up. So this was looked upon as a hidden agenda. These companies felt that they don't want us to develop, therefore they are putting environmentalism as an issue for us to stop production. Okay, so the timing was that okay, in 2000 they were coming out with refrigerators using CFC. Same time it was told that CFC has to be banned and you have to come up with alternative chemical or eco-friendly chemicals substituting CFC. What is the problem if you substitute one chemical with another one in an industry when you are manufacturing? Your cost will go up, number one. Your technology might have to be changed. Then what else? There will be a resultant delay due to this particular process. Now, if you are a manager, a production manager in charge of it, you have a lot of difficulty accepting that because somebody else said that this particular CFC travels for about 7 years in the stratosphere. Okay, after the 7 years, it can create a hole anywhere. Look at it, I am deliberately putting it in this way to prevail upon you. There is an issue of credibility. I don't trust this. It may happen, it may not happen. Okay, so when there is a credibility issue, will you make your decision putting millions of dollars of money into that and say that I love environment, therefore I am changing? Will it happen? Answer my question. Okay, it doesn't happen. This is a fundamental problem as far as command and control governance is concerned. Once that credibility came up, it was very fast for countries to change, and now we have got best practices across the globe. Okay. Second is market-driven mechanism. I just took the example of spitting and I said, I may still do that practice because it's convenient to me. But the moment somebody is going to tell me I have to pay $300, I'm going to decide. This is not me. I would rather go into a place where it is given for that. Market-driven mechanisms, by and large, believe in a penalty for doing something wrong. I'm not saying right or wrong. It's a ethical moral issue. I'm not saying it's right or wrong. But the results are spontaneous. Okay? You cross a signal when it is red. Do you pay the fine? Do you pay it and insist for a receipt? No. Okay? So there is a whole lot of practices which happen. But then the moment you know that somebody is using a mobile camera and capturing you, will you become conscious? Market-driven practices, the logic is behind, is it possible to provide, incentivize certain things? Fine is not an incentive, but then the behavior, good behavior ultimately gets rewarded somewhere. Market-driven practices are prevalent in many countries. Okay? So environmental governance basically talks about, at this point in time, there are best practices emerging. Best practices due to proactive leadership in the company. Best practices due to something they have learned over a period of time that cleaning is very, very costly, therefore I am getting into a better practice. Second is clearance. Clearance is something where if the implementation becomes very stringent, it's really started bothering everybody. Now you don't look at that point of time, you don't look at it as an environmental issue. Risk management is a major headache for project managers in different companies. Whether it's an infrastructure project, whether it's a multipurpose dam in the government, whether it is any other kind of this one, risk management, the kind of risk you carry because of environmental clearance is high. It runs into crores of rupees. So, I don't want to touch it. What happens? When Medha Patkar brought about this Narmada Bachao Andolan, it's not about the mass movement. What is the loss to the Sardar Sarovar project? Huge. Okay. What also happened? How many dams exist in the Narmada river? Just think about it. Just think about how many this thing exists in Narmada river.
I think quite a good number.
Quite a good number. The first environmental clearance which was supposed to be done for Narmada river was done in prior to independence. Okay. Now after the kind of awareness created by this Narmada Bachao Andolan, people had to reopen the environmental impact reports which have been existing for time immemorial. Environmental impact report, I used to bring it to the classroom if I have a one day. When you look at that report, it is just 2 pages of sheet asking you what is your resource utilization, how much of resource you are justifiable, and what is the kind of audit which is required. Initially, industries, don't take me wrong, industries said, this audit word, for environmental audit we are not ready, make it environmental statement. First negotiation, make it environmental statement. We don't mind giving an environmental statement to the government. This is 1986. They brought about a mechanism by which clearance will be subject to providing environmental impact assessment, and nobody bothered about an impact assessment, it becomes a sheet of paper. But if people are very, very sensitive that any day with the public interest litigation, it can be reopened, people became cautious. Okay? So that is how the entire journey keeps on going. Now, this subject matter is so vast, I will take questions and through that I'll answer. Or any issues, any questions you would like to raise?
Madam, what's happening in India on the recycling?
What's happening in India in recycling? A lot of best practices are there, but they are not being documented. Steel industry, every industry is into recycling. Okay?
India has been much most recycled.
Very, very, very.
I guess right now out of the economic need.
The
How
kind of
economic?
recycling which takes place for water in the industrial units is simply phenomenal. Phenomenal. And they also say that the water, the recycled water, the purity is up to the extent. There is no harm in drinking, but there is a stigma. Okay, you don't want to do that, so they put it for all other purposes. Am I right, sir?
Yes.
Paper is this
Zero
size
discharge.
Ah, zero
Zero
discharge.
discharge, same all.
Papers are this and all plastics and all, so many things are being collected, but poor people, they are surviving on that. Ultimately it goes for recycling, but as you said, there is no documentation, there is no records available, or data are not
Actually,
available. officially.
unlike the Europe
But
and
otherwise-
US where the
It's a
recycling
fantastic
is
domain
very
for a
critical them.
consultant, because when you
Entire
look at
RCF,
sale, huh?
RCF, the Bombay waste is being taken to RCF, they treat the entire water, use them for the process.
Yes, entire this one, and RCF is no longer the old image. They have the best of the technology for that.
Now, this recent past, there was a news that what are the flowers being offered to the god, particularly in the Siddhivinayak here, will be collected, will be converted into useful manure. It will
Manure.
not be thrown to the sea actually.
Yeah, that's why I'm saying best practices are plenty.
Reason
It is not recorded, this means documented nahi.
the reason I asked this question is
Yes,
because
question, yeah, right, sir.
I want to share something else.
Yeah, yeah, good practice.
You see, in Canada, when you are building a home, for example, you are, you have agreed to buy a townhouse in a condominium. Now, the Ontario and the British Columbian government, they say that the house which is to be delivered must have 12.5% recycled wood. And if the recycled wood is subject to the inspection, and if the percentage is not found, up to that, the government will not allow the unit to be handed in. And if one unit is not ready, 3,000 units will be held. Now what it does is that all the developers are so conscious of the fact that first of all, when they start constructing,
they take care of the recycled material first and the non-recycled material?
It is started already. Enercon is an example, which we have got green buildings in India. Raheja, most of the builders have already incorporated, and they are going in for certification of green building also, and leads and other things. Now, most of the certifying process includes the extent to which recyclable material is being used. Okay. Now, look at it on the other side. It has got a huge opportunity for coming out with recyclable material, which is why his question is valid. When we are talking about how is India going to be growing and which are the sectors which are going to come up, the sunshine sector is where this kind of recyclable material has got a huge potential. Huge potential not only for this country, across the globe. So therefore, these kind of practices which have come in. Another, before we move on, another thought process is, earlier, whenever there is a risk or any kind of a issue which is coming up in the company, it used to be related to production, it used to be related to quality, maybe related to scam or any kind of a this thing. Nowadays, most of these issues are primarily into ethical dilemmas. Ethical and moral dilemmas, which are basically in the realm of your responsible business, forget the social, responsible business practices and environmental governance. These are the two things which are being discussed across. Okay? Because whenever you have to talk about another two, they are not jargons here, all of us use it every day, but then the two terms which we keep using interchangeably, accountability and transparency. Does it ring a bell? Accountability and transparency. What is this? What is transparency?
You need to be open to what you're doing.
Right.
Your annual
Yeah.
report, or you should be clear.
Another set of dialogue we'll get into. Earlier it was the shareholders, now it is the stakeholders. Now when you are looking at the stakeholders, you have broadly divided them into three categories of stakeholders. One is capital market stakeholders, because they are the investors, they are the persons who are your shareholders. So you have one set of behavior with the capital market stakeholders, right? Another one is your customer. Without them you cannot run it. So therefore, that's an important group. The third group is the community and others who are also stakeholders, because ultimately you are going to draw a pool of people or labor from that kind of stakeholders. So the transparency is not with your shareholder alone, it is with the entire stakeholder management. They are divided into three groups and look at it. Okay? Now, it's a very, very interesting dialogue. You get into or look at the website of the company you most admire. Look at what they are doing for stakeholder handholding. There's a lot of research which is possible there. And you need not be a multinational company. Even in a national level company, stakeholder management is very, very critical for holding on to the transparency and accountability. Okay? So this is, in brief, environmental governance for us. Can't do more than this in half an hour time allotted for it, but it's huge. It's simply huge. So we at least can remember environmental governance basically talks about mechanism which is available for going beyond compliance. Governance is a powerful term. If you have given me a term as environmental control, simply I would have started off with Ministry of Environment and Forest, looked about at the what are the regulations, Environmental Protection Act, what happened, how did we learn in Union Carbide, etc. That is environmental control. Environmental governance has got a positive connotation. It talks about a broader umbrella where you are looking at something which is done by the companies all by themselves, something which is done by the companies because they want to look at what is the business opportunity available. Look at it this way. Take this as a ladder. I am somewhere here. My company is in the environmental clearance area. but there is no non-compliance issue. Okay? If there is no non-compliance issue, my slate is clean. That's all. Nothing else. So I want to climb to the next ladder. Then I call somebody for ISO 14000 certification. So they go on to give me a certification. That is environmental management certification. I want to climb another ladder. I call that gentleman. He gives me zero discharge certification. Okay, third ladder I have climbed. Fourth ladder I want to go in. Somebody is talking about sustainability index. Okay, I have this slide for it, but I don't have the time to show you. Sustainability index. So somebody comes and gives me a BBQ certification. Sustainability index is there. The problem is my company is into export of, let's say, sugar. Chairman is also talking about getting into some kind of a merger, and the merging entity has got environmental clearance at the level of sustainability reporting. My company is here. In order to bring about parity, I have no choice but to climb the ladder as quickly as possible. This is the driver or the internal logic why most of the companies are ready to move up the ladder. Okay? It may be due to environmental issues, but what is driving is primarily an issue in terms of, does it make sense to have a competitive advantage? To improve my business viability, I get into this particular game.
May I share you one thing? Like my own personal experience is, as you go higher up on the ladder, your cost go down.
It
Actually,
does.
it's a very myth that to be a highest quality you need more cost to be paid.
Yeah, from end of pipe when you move on, your cost
It's a
goes
myth,
down.
total myth.
Yeah.
And like 8-9 years back when I told my people that we want to become zero discharge company, everybody laughed at me at that time. They said, because I was in one of my spiritual side which I spent with in the ashram, and Guruji only said that you cannot convey anyone to be zero discharge unless you are the one in the same passion. Yeah, let me follow the same example. We'll first do it and then tell someone else.
Yeah.
So I came back and told my manufacturing people that, listen, I want this company to be zero. So they know I'm cranky, so they just looked at me, sir, but cost will be enormous, so much of money to be spent to set up the whole plant to zero discharge. $1 million extra to be investment. Don't have money to that extent. Plus operational costs are so huge.
Operational cost comes down.
Yeah, but
the raw material cost is so high.
so we were at that time consuming 7 lakh liter, 700 meter cube water every day. And as there happened, like they didn't listen to me at that time, but slowly there was a pollution issue, this, that, and then they cut down the consumption of water from 700,000 meter cube to only 120.
Same thing is for our Hyderabad plant also.
Yeah.
We have reduced our energy from more than 60 gigajoules per kg of production, reduced to less than 30 kg.
Just
30
gigajoules. Half of
But we have replaced our bigger pumps by smaller pumps for intake of water and all.
Let's move on to the second dimension of the topic which is given. Which again, let me at the outset tell you, I will not be able to cover the entire thing in a span of half an hour to 45 minutes. Nonetheless, let's look at it. Normally what we do is, because though you call it as corporate social responsibility, basically it talks about different spheres or concentric circles in which every company is maintaining its level of responsibility with the stakeholders. Okay? So one takeaway for all of you is the sphere of influence. Okay? This is something we can remember. Well, how is the sphere of influence happening? Okay? Now when you are looking at today I've heard a little bit about social responsibility. I go back, and as a leader, I'm responsible for coming out with at least a skeleton or a background in my company or a CSR framework. So typically in a CSR framework, what will you have? You will have a dimension in terms of leadership. You will have a dimension in terms of, do I have a CSR policy or something like a overarching philosophy for CSR in the company? That is the document for strategy. Third is there any way by which I can sensitize my people that the company is looking at CSR with a view to bring about changes in the sphere of influence? I'll just come to that sphere of influence. Can I go in for any kind of a partnership to make it big? What are the processes which should be in place? And what am I expecting out of the whole thing? Do I want to be given the award? Do I want to be known as the best philanthropist in the country? Or how am I going to look at the different processes which are in place to make CSR initiatives sustain in the company in the long term? Okay? When you talk about, in fact, first time when this term CSR emerged, it did not come up from any kind of a public speech. You look at this as a company, the first sphere of influence for the company basically is in the realm of the employees. What are the responsibility issues which will come? Keep that social in the background. What are the responsibility issues that will come when you are dealing with employee health? Then
well-being of the employees, basically the whole family.
welfare.
Welfare.
On the negative side, occupational safety and health he has covered. You have covered the welfare. Should the employee, does he have a right to know about whether he has got a tenure or the HR practices? Are there any kind of a responsibility that the company should have?
Yeah.
Yeah, what?
HR practices. Yeah.
HR practices. So HR practices, you have absolutely no doubt. It's always the best in the company.
Yeah.
It's always the best.
You keep on improving upon your best practice.
Yeah, that's from your end. But do you have your subordinates coming and saying, I hate it here, they don't explain anything? It doesn't happen at all. I don't believe that.
I not seen that.
Doesn't happen at all. Before the retrenchment is there, everything is explained.
Yeah, before retrenchment, but that retrenchment part was we had everything had a very, very transparent retrenchment process.
Grievances are always there.
Okay.
And it was given open retrenchment. It was not forced upon anybody.
Okay.
People on their own took, few people only, only 4 people got retrenched.
Okay. Are there ever been any kind of a gender related issue?
Not ever noticed. Not ever come to
Okay.
know.
Have there been issues with reference to something which is not intended, but then people get hurt because in the workforce diversity, there are different communities which are working in here, but it's a part of life for people to hurt each other? I have moved on, I said responsible business. Now part of being, how much time does an employee spend in the office? About 8 hours?
10 hours roughly.
10 hours, 20, whatever. So what
10 to
happens
10
is the
hours.
first year where they identified responsible issues are emerging, responsibility emerging in the first year, I can fill the entire book. Lot of issues are there. It could be gender, it could be this thing. In fact, in Harvard, when they're having a course on corporate accountability, they just take up every case and look at how it is being done. Simple thing like, normally the relationship doesn't get affected at all. One incident happens in Dubai, immediately one email which goes on in the intra-mail can change the way people look at each other. And that's the time they become acutely aware that the communities, 2 different communities are staying in the same office. What I'm saying is, when I said policy, we all matter of fact agreed. When a company says responsible business is there, if I fill this checklist for the first year, you'll have to go back and say, do I have a policy in place in case something happens, 2611 happens here, and a very innocent mail comes about it, and people start hitting each other, that your community is always like this is typically doing like that. Does it happen? The time has come when a company says, I never had any issue. Is there a policy and a statute in place? And what is the leadership? This thing. It's a very, very sensitive issue, but it happens all the time. Responsible business primarily talks about mapping every bit of these kind of issues. Now the second sphere could be supplier. Okay? Now if I am taking a strategy class, what I'll do is, I'll just simply put Michael Porter's 5 forces model here. And I'll say that supplier, can he dictate terms? Very well he can. Now what is the supplier relationship which has been maintained? Today in India it is happening in pharmaceutical companies. I did the entire report for Dr. Reddy's lab. Complete report I did with 2 others. When we did that, when we were doing focus group, the company for sourcing green material for medicine, supplier relation and sourcing, entire green sourcing is done by the company. Which means that keeping that cost effectiveness and everything together, the company moves around with the suppliers and do that. How do they maintain the relationship? If I talk about Dr. Reddy's, it goes without saying, Ranbaxy will follow, Cipla will follow, so many others, top 10 companies. That's the level to which the second sphere is taken care. Come to the customer. Is customer the king or bichara customer? Both?
Both.
So if you say that your company has got fantastic relation with customers, please look up. How many complaints are there about after sales services? How many complaints are pending about various issues? And then see how is a responsible business part of it has got it. Okay? So this is a sphere of influence model, which is a very powerful tool for teaching CSR. Teaching, because I'm not into lecturing at all. Because lecturing for senior executives doesn't work. I'll give you one small situation. Through that we'll try to cover this. Okay? Princess Part manufactures and sources original equipment for several Indian, European and Japanese vehicle manufacturers. Its products range from nuts, bolts and washers through to seat belts, airbags, brakes, axle and engine units. It has its own manufacturing facilities in Pune, India, and has recently acquired a plant in China. Don't worry, he is recording, so everything will come to you. Princess was found in 1953 and from the very beginning focused intensively on quality, technical development and marketing. It has been instrumental in establishing a second tier in the Indian automotive industry, aggregating the output of many small industrial units into components and assemblies for major international manufacturers. In 2001, its turnover was $570 million, on which it made a slender profit of $5 million. It employs 5,600 people. The majority of them are in India itself. Okay? So what are you supposed to come up with? Is there any kind of an issue related to responsible business here? Will you repeat it? Will you just do the, will you repeat it?
Achha.
Yeah.